The Republic of Indonesia in Southeast Asia comprises some 17,000 islands. Much of Indonesia lies within an area that has been termed the Coral Triangle, reaching to Malaysia in the west, the Philippines in the north, and Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands in the east. This region has been designated on account of its extraordinary marine biodiversity. A combination of warm water, tropical light, and enriching ocean currents has created ideal conditions for a myriad of aquatic creatures to thrive. More than 500 species of coral and more than 3,000 species of fish live here. The Coral Triangle has been called the global centre of marine biodiversity and is a focus for many conservation efforts. At the heart of the sprawling Indonesian archipelago and of the Coral Triangle lies Sulawesi, the 11th largest island in the world. Much of Sulawesi is fringed by hard coral reefs. For example, at Bunaken Island, off the North Sulawesi coast near Manado, pristine coral reefs teem with tropical fish. Down below, green turtles rest on ledges in the reef wall. Schools of pelagic fish patrol the deep blue water of the coast, and the occasional shark cruises by. Across the North Sulawesi Peninsula lies Lembeh Island, separated from the mainland by the Lembeh Strait, a waterway some 15 kilometers long and 1 to 2 kilometers wide. The undulating coast is lined on both sides by rainforest and plantations of coconut palms, which are farmed primarily for their oil. The strait is overlooked by Mount Klebat, a dramatic dormant volcano on the Sulawesi mainland. The busy town of Bitung lies at the southern end of the strait and is Sulawesi's main deep-water port. The underwater landscape here is quite different. Much of the seabed consists of gently sloping plains of dark sand and silt, tiny fragments of volcanic lava that can appear barren at first. Visibility is more limited, and newcomers might be forgiven for wondering why they are here. But a closer look reveals a vast array of life, supported by the currents passing through the sheltered strait and nutrients from the mineral-rich substrate. Many of the animals are unusual and exotic species rarely seen elsewhere. The area is a popular breeding ground for many species, and the juveniles often stick around during their development. Over the years, a lot of refuse has been discarded into the strait from passing boats or from the shore. Everything from bottles to tyres is encountered underwater. Although some of the trash is undoubtedly toxic, in many cases it has become integrated with the natural features and is an important part of the underwater ecosystem. On a seabed with relatively little natural shelter, everything that can be used as a habitat invariably is. Pioneering explorers first discovered Lembeh's charms in the 1990s. The term muck diving had been coined for similar dives in Papua New Guinea, and Lembeh soon became a mecca for this growing activity, and in particular for macrophotographers and videographers. Several dive centres have since been established on both sides of the strait, and liveaboard vessels occasionally visit too. Despite the extra traffic, there is plenty to go around, and many stretches of the coastline have been recognised and christened as dive sites. Although coral reefs are sparse, the muck is punctuated by occasional oases of life, such as this colony of branching flowerpot coral on the slope at TK2. These xenia soft corals also sit isolated at Nudie Retreat. The pulsating movement of the tentacles is not to catch plankton, as is commonly thought, because the polyp mouth and digestive tract are no longer functional. Rather, the motion enhances gas exchange and assists the uptake of dissolved nutrients from the water. Such sessile animals, those that are fixed in one place, succeed in spots where currents are plentiful. The exposed reefs at Critter Hunt in the middle of the strait are ideal for ascidians or sea squirts. This is a colony of stalked ascidians rooted to one of the reefs. Water is inhaled through the larger hole, the oral siphon. Organic particles are filtered out for food, and the water and waste products exit via the smaller atrial siphon. This nearby compound ascidian consists of many small individuals, each called a zooid, forming a single sheet-like colony with a shared circulation. Symbiotic relationships between marine creatures are crucial to many species' survival underwater, and nowhere is this more apparent than around sea anemones. On the mucky slopes, large communities of saddleback clownfish shelter in Haddon's carpet anemones in a classic example of mutual symbiosis. The anemone's stinging tentacles provide protection for the clownfish, which are immune to the sting. The clownfish chase away polyp-eating predators, and their feces provide food for the anemone. At Nudie Retreat, this juvenile saddleback clownfish shelters alone in a sebe anemone. The fish swims constantly to stay still in the current. In this sebe anemone, a slightly older saddleback clownfish is joined by a holthuis shrimp. The shrimp also uses the anemone's tentacles for protection, but the anemone doesn't appear to benefit in any way. This is known as a commensal relationship, and the shrimps in this group are known as commensal shrimps or partner shrimps. This elegance coral plays host to a number of the slightly different magnificent shrimp. Tube anemones are also found in isolation on the mucky seabed, and this example is home to a solitary magnificent shrimp which lives at its base. These graceful commensal shrimps are found in a night anemone, one of their typical habitats. This anemone mimics corals during the daytime and only extends its mouth to feed at night. It has an extremely potent sting that immobilizes prey. The venom doesn't affect the shrimps, but is dangerous to humans. It leaves ulcers in the skin and can even cause kidney failure. Researchers have suggested that the venom may be useful in developing medical drugs. These shrimps seem more interested in cleaning themselves than any third party. This warty sea cucumber is also known as a curry fish because of its popularity in Asian cooking. Sea cucumbers such as this often host emperor shrimps. The shrimps are usually found in couples. The male is smaller and has consistent coloration with white markings down its back. The female is larger and the coloration is more variable. The shrimps hang head down and feed on detritus picked off the seabed as the host creeps along. This pair of emperor shrimps is travelling on a synaptid sea cucumber, sometimes known as a medusa worm. The female is completely lacking the white spots that are usually present. Eggs can clearly be seen under the abdomen of this large female. The brood is protected by her shell and her swimming legs, which are folded up. As well as sea cucumbers, emperor shrimps also hitchhike on larger sea slugs, such as Spanish dancers. This pretty tube anemone is feeding on the plankton brought by the current at Critter Hunt. These anemones often have squat shrimps living around their tube. The female is twice the size of the male. The distinctive coloration and movement make these shrimps very popular with aquarists, who generally know them as sexy shrimps. This orange mantis shrimp, waiting in its burrow in the sand, is a type of spearing mantis shrimp. Its front claws are sharp and barbed and are used to stab its prey at great speed. Mantis shrimps have perhaps the most advanced eyes in the entire animal kingdom. Whereas human eyes have 3 types of colour receptors, mantis shrimps have no less than 16 different types, so they can see many colours that other animals can't, including deep shades of ultraviolet. The eyes of spearing mantis shrimps, like this golden mantis shrimp, tend to be elongated, whereas the eyes of smashing mantis shrimps, such as this pink-tailed variety, tend to be more circular. Smashing mantis shrimps have an extremely hard pair of clubs at the end of their front claws that they use to smash or stun prey. They are made from the same material as dental implants and can strike with a speed of some 80 kilometers per hour. This is a peacock mantis shrimp at one of the entrances to its U-shaped burrow. This species can grow up to 18 centimeters long and is common across the whole Indo-Pacific region. Another crustacean, the elegant squat lobster, lives commensally on the arms of crinoid feather stars. It feeds on plankton collected by its host, and its colour often matches the crinoid for camouflage. Squat lobsters are very different from other families of lobster, but take their name due to their long clawed legs. These undescribed squat lobsters of the Galathea genus live on a branching sponge. Space on the reef is at a premium, and competition between individuals is fierce. Hermit crabs don't have a hard carapace like other crabs, so they recycle an empty gastropod shell to protect their soft abdomen. This white-spotted hermit crab is using an empty conch shell. Long eye stalks ensure that the crab has a wide angle of view. Hermit crabs carry their adopted home around with them. This individual is carrying a different type of conch shell. In another classic example of mutual symbiosis, the anemone hermit crab carries a specific species of sea anemone on its back. The stinging anemones help protect the crab, while the anemones share in the crab's meals and thrive on the extra mobility. These eyes belong to a pair of box crabs, which are usually buried in the sand during the day, with just their sensory organs exposed. Once a male box crab has chosen his female mate, he clings onto her from behind using his 2 large front claws. Mating will take place just after the female has molted her shell and is still soft. During the wait, the male carries her everywhere with him as he scurries sideways along the seabed. The rear-spined elbow crab has an amazing camouflage. It lays its huge front claws down flat on top of the seabed, where they blend in perfectly with the sand. While this decorator spider crab gathers debris on its body and legs to help it remain undetected. The distinctive zebra crab forms a commensal relationship with one of several species of sea urchin. This one is clinging to the underside of a highly venomous flower urchin. The last segment of the crab's legs has evolved into a hook to grip onto the urchin's spines. Human deaths have been attributed to this urchin. The blue-spotted urchin is another highly venomous echinoderm. The bright coloration serves as a warning to would-be predators. The urchins graze on algae and are able to scurry around on their needles. They are often seen in groups in shallow depths at sites such as Hairball. Small fishes like this juvenile emperor red snapper are often seen sheltering amongst blue-spotted urchins. A blue-spotted stingray, a type of mask ray, swims towards the depths at Hairball. The sandy seabed is ideal for this species. It camouflages itself by flapping its large triangular pectoral fins, thereby covering its body with sand and rubble from the seabed. The ray breathes through its spiracle, a hole just behind the eye. It's often confused with this other species, the blue-spotted ribbon-tail ray, but this is more circular and its blue spots are more vivid. This ray tends to seek the shelter of outcrops rather than rest on open ground, but it still sometimes likes to bury itself for camouflage. This is the most popular stingray in the home aquarium trade, but seldom lives for long in such a situation. It is listed as near threatened on the IUCN Red List of threatened species. Pelagic sharks, sharks that must keep moving to breathe, are not at all common in the Lembeh Strait, but bottom-dwelling brown-banded bamboo sharks, sometimes known as cat sharks, are sometimes seen. Juveniles bear strong banding, possibly mimicking the coloration of some dangerous snakes and eels. These sharks can pass water over their gills while remaining still on the seabed. In adulthood, the coloration fades to a more uniform grey. The shark has two sensitive barbels above the mouth that help it find prey when it hunts at night. Snake eels, a type of fish, are a common sight in the Lembeh Strait. At Jahir, this convict snake eel swims across the sand, hunting for food. It bears similarities to some sea snakes, which may deter potential predators. The eel finally senses prey and burrows headfirst into the sand to make its attack. For protection, snake eels burrow tail first into the sand. Typically only the head is seen exposed above the seabed. This stargazer snake eel is an ambush predator and lies in wait for passing fish, but is clearly disturbed by our presence. The high-fin snake eel is normally seen with its head emerging vertically from the sand. Its body is kept clean by the burrowing process, but its head is often seen surrounded by magnificent shrimps, which feast themselves on dead skin, parasites, and other unwanted organisms. This is another example of mutual symbiosis whereby both animals benefit. I encountered this snowflake moray eel on a night dive at Air Perang. Eels of the Echidna genus, such as the snowflake moray, have strong, blunt teeth for crushing the shells of crabs, their favourite food. The snowflake moray is more inclined to swim in the open, hunting for prey, than most other morays. Morays of the Gymnothorax genus, such as this white-mouthed moray, have long, fang-like teeth for dealing with fishes. This moray's white spots help camouflage it amongst corals. This is possibly a pale-chin moray, but the plain coloration makes it more difficult to positively identify without close examination. Another individual bears the scars of serious injuries to its face, a fairly common sight amongst morays. Another member of the moray eel family is the ribbon eel. The juveniles are black with a pale yellow border to the dorsal fin and lower jaw. They are usually seen poking out of a fairly exposed burrow near a reef. As it grows older, the ribbon eel turns into a male, taking on a bright blue and yellow coloration. Ribbon eels have greatly expanded anterior nostrils, along with protruding barbels on both jaws, apparently to help them sense passing prey. Later, the eel changes into a female. It loses the blue and takes on a completely yellow colour. The ribbon eel usually holds its mouth open to breathe, which gives it an aggressive appearance. While anemone fishes have been the traditional inhabitants of Lembeh's sea anemones, in recent years they have had competition. The Bangai cardinal fish is indigenous to just the Bangai Islands, a very limited area some 400 kilometres away off Sulawesi's East Peninsula. It was discovered by the ornamental fish trade in the 1990s and quickly became popular due to its striking pattern. In the year 2000, traders introduced some Bangai cardinal fish to the Lembeh Strait, where they have since thrived at a few sites like Police Pier. Some have also been introduced to northwest Bali. Despite its apparent success in the Lembeh Strait, where it is not harvested, the overall population of Bangai cardinal fish has been decimated by fishermen over the past 2 decades, and destructive fishing practices, such as cyanide and blast fishing, continue to damage its natural environment. The species is classified as endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, but at the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species in 2007, efforts to control the trade in the fish were blocked. The Bangai cardinal fish is very different to other members of the family, such as these Moluccan cardinal fish. These orbiculate cardinal fish live under an abandoned oyster farm. Like the Bangai cardinal fish, they are mouth brooders. The male incubates the eggs in his mouth until they hatch. The long, venomous spines of sea urchins provide protection from predators such as lionfish and moray eels. They are a favourite habitat of cardinal fish, including these frostfin cardinal fish. This group is sheltering amongst flowerpot corals. Not far away, a trumpetfish is on the hunt. Its long, slender profile makes it difficult to see from the front, and it has adjusted its body coloration to be well camouflaged amongst the corals. Its dorsal and anal fins are right at the back by its tail, out of sight. Its jaw structure is optimized for rapid and wide opening of the mouth to suck in prey, in a method known as pipette feeding. Patiently, it creeps up on the unsuspecting cardinal fish. After the attack, one of the cardinal fish can be seen being swallowed whole. The spotted seahorse is found throughout the Lembeh Strait. It also adapts its skin colour to blend into its environment, and it has small hairs which gather algae and other matter to increase the camouflage. Seahorses are in the same phylogenetic order as trumpetfish and share a similar characteristic long snout. Rather than fishes, they feed on small crustaceans, and their eyes can move independently to maximise their field of vision to pick out prey. The seahorse is a poor swimmer. It has a prehensile tail, which allows it to grasp onto a holdfast for stability. The male seahorse incubates eggs, then fetuses, in a brood pouch on its belly until they are ready to hatch. This species is listed by the IUCN as vulnerable, mainly due to the demand for its use in traditional medicines. Because of this, trade is now monitored. Amongst the branches of a sea fan, we find one of the most perfectly camouflaged creatures in the entire animal kingdom. Pygmy seahorses are much smaller than their larger cousins and have much shorter snouts. The adults grow to a maximum of just a couple of centimetres long. They live with two species of Gorgonian sea fan, clinging to their branches with their prehensile tail. The body colour matches the stem of the sea fan, while the tubercles that cover its body match the colour and shape of the sea fan's polyps. In fact, pygmy seahorses are so small and well camouflaged that they were only discovered in 1969 in a sea fan that had been collected by staff of an aquarium. Adults are usually found in pairs, but numerous pairs can sometimes be found on the same sea fan. Keen-eyed divers have discovered more species of pygmy seahorse in recent years, and since the year 2000, at least 6 more species have been officially named. They are notoriously difficult to find, and like all seahorses, they shy away from bright lights, so they are even more difficult to photograph and film. Pipefishes are closely related to seahorses. They share the same long snout and toothless mouth as most species of seahorse, but have a straight body with ridges running along it. As poor swimmers, camouflage is important for their defence, and the colour varies to match aspects of the environment. Younger specimens of the ornate pipefish grow wing-like skin flaps that increase the disguise, along with cirri on the snout, which give it the alternative name of whiskered pipefish. Standing in the current, with its tail anchored to the seabed, the short-tailed pipefish resembles a Gorgonian sea whip. This juvenile translucent Gorgonian shrimp stands on the pipefish's back, possibly taken in by the camouflage. The short-tailed pipefish's neck is more bent than other pipefishes, but it has the same long snout and fused jaws. Individuals adapt their colour and texture, resulting in great variation as shown by this specimen at Makawide. The banded pipefish is a type of flagtail pipefish. The large tail fin makes it a faster and more agile swimmer than most other pipefishes, and is used in courtship and territorial displays. Like seahorses, it is the male that incubates the young. Females compete to deposit their eggs in compartments under its abdomen. Scientists have suggested that the process of sexual selection continues after copulation. The males tend to fertilize and nurture the eggs of attractive females, while the eggs of less attractive females may be neglected or even digested by the male as he prepares for future pregnancies. Ghost pipefish are usually found in pairs, hanging head down. They are masters of camouflage, closely resembling their surroundings. These robust ghost pipefish resemble the leaves of seaweed, making them almost invisible to predators. The taxonomy of ghost pipefishes has been a subject of much debate, and some varieties that were previously considered to be separate species on the basis of body shape and coloration are now thought to be variants of the robust ghost pipefish. The ornate or harlequin ghost pipefish is one of the most spectacular cryptid creatures underwater. Numerous skin filaments cover its body as a camouflage. The colour varies, but certain patterns are particularly common. Black or dark brown specimens are often found blending in with crinoid feather stars, one of their favourite habitats. At Hairball, next to an oil drum that has been used as a mooring, we find another pair taking shelter. The smaller male has lost its tail fin. Another pair has taken on the pale coloration of a submerged bamboo stalk. Ghost pipefishes are more conventional than seahorses and regular pipefishes in that it is the female that incubates the eggs. It's been suggested that all ghost pipefishes start as males, then some of them change into females and grow bigger. The female develops a large brood pouch between her pelvic fins where she stores her eggs. She uses a pumping action of the fins to aerate the hundreds of fertilized eggs, a process known as churning, until they are ready for birth. The juvenile ornate ghost pipefish is more translucent before it acquires the pigmentation of the adult. On a night dive near Tanjung Kusu Kusu, a school of rigid shrimpfish emerges from the blackness, attracted by my lights. Shrimpfish are always found in tightly coordinated schools, usually swimming head downwards, which may assist their camouflage amongst corals and sea whips during the day. Their name comes from the similarity to long shrimps, but they are also known as grooved razorfish because of the sharp-edged belly and the resemblance to a cutthroat razor. This is a pair of short dragonfish, a type of sea moth. Sea moths are related to seahorses and pipefishes and share their long snout, although their mouth is under the snout. The body is encased in a hard, rigid carapace, while the tail is made of segmented rings to allow it to flex. They are highly active during the daytime, walking on their pelvic fin rays while hunting for small invertebrates. Usually seen in couples, sea moths are monogamous and bond closely with their mate. They shed their skin in a single piece every few days to clean themselves of sessile organisms like algae and hydroids. It has been estimated that millions of sea moths are collected each year for use in traditional Chinese medicine. This juvenile oriental flying gurnard deters predators by appearing as large as it can. The false eye spots on its pectoral fins make it appear like a much larger fish from above. Like sea moths, gurnards also walk across the seabed on their pelvic fins. In adulthood, the pectoral fins become huge and lose most of their blue spots. They can be retracted for a burst of speed if necessary. It also gains more red around the face, which suits its alternative name of sea robin. Members of the family are also known as helmet gurnards because of the strong armour surrounding the head. The word gurnard is derived from the French word to grunt because of the strange sounds it can make. Over 700 species of fish are known as blennies, and some 400 of these are comb-toothed blennies. One such variety is the starry blenny, which usually lives amongst rocks where it feeds on algae. Its interesting appearance and strong personality make it popular in the aquarium trade. By far the largest comb-toothed blenny is the hairtail or snake blenny. This blenny can reach over 1/2 metre long and burrows its body into the sand or mud, much like a snake eel. It feeds at night and is rarely seen out of its burrow during the day. Gobies represent the world's largest fish family and one of the most varied. Yellow pygmy gobies are without doubt amongst the cutest. They are usually found in pairs and traditionally seek refuge in natural shelters such as empty shells. However, the many discarded bottles and cans in the strait provide perfect homes for them. The gravid female's eggs can be clearly seen in her swollen belly. The gobies appear to exchange signals by prodding the other's tail. The toothy goby, a type of ghost goby, forms a commensal relationship with a variety of sessile invertebrates, sessile meaning immobile. Here it is living on a sea pen, a type of gorgonian. The sea pen receives neither benefit nor harm from the relationship, but provides the goby with shelter and a good spot to feed on plankton passing by in the current. These war paint-like facial markings belong to a male fingered dragonet. Such benthic animals, creatures that live on the seabed, thrive in the muck of Lembeh. The male has very long filamented rays on its dorsal fin that it holds forwards when on the move. The first ray of each pelvic fin is effectively a limb or finger that the dragonet uses to walk along the seabed and dig for food, hence the name fingered dragonet. It feeds in a picky, methodical manner similar to birds. The upper jaw can be thrust forward to catch prey such as small crustaceans. This motion reveals the female's bright orange upper lip. These orange-black dragonets are similar and belong to the same genus. The distinctive juvenile is largely white in colour. The adults are darker, but retain the orange lips and the bright blue spots on the anal fin. The dragonet has adapted very effectively to life on the bottom. It is well camouflaged, and at night it will bury its body. The eyes and gills are placed high, so only they remain above the sand. A minuscule sea slug crawls down this dragonette's cheek. The Morrison's dragonet shuffles around the seabed without the aid of separated fin rays. This individual at Nudie Falls is a female. A similar species of dragonet, the mandarin fish, bears one of the most spectacular colorations of any fish. No wonder they are sometimes called psychedelic mandarin fish. During the day they are well hidden among shallow hard corals, but at dusk the males eagerly seek out female mates. During the hunt they hold their first dorsal fin aloft as an advertisement to the females and a warning to competing males. When a mate has been found, the female rests on the larger male's pectoral fin and the couple rise up together from the reef. At the peak of their ascent, they simultaneously release sperm and eggs and then make a dash for cover as the spawn drifts away in the current. This frenzy of sexual activity typically lasts some 30 minutes until nightfall. If fertilized, the eggs will hatch about a day later, and the tiny larvae will drift for a further week or two before settling onto the bottom to begin their benthic life. While a rarity at most dive locations, frogfishes are actually quite common in the Lembeh Strait, where conditions are ideal for them. Frogfishes are highly camouflaged to resemble sponges or rocks covered in algae. They have an amazing ability to adapt their skin colour and texture to blend in with their surroundings, and numerous colour variations of the same species can be found. This makes it very difficult to distinguish between different species. There is debate over the taxonomy within the family, and scientists are currently studying genetic samples in an effort to clarify the classification. The second frogfish in the rear of this shot is so well camouflaged that I failed to notice it until reviewing my footage after the dive. Frogfish's gill openings are hidden away behind their pectoral fins. Large quantities of water can be expelled from the gill openings to give the frogfish jet propulsion when swimming. Rather than blending into the surroundings, this warty frogfish mimics toxic sea slugs to deter predators. Although frogfishes can swim, they usually walk around on their pectoral fins, which have evolved into arm-like limbs, complete with an elbow-like joint. Although they will sometimes slowly stalk prey, frogfishes are generally ambush predators and have a very clever hunting technique. Their first dorsal spine, the elysium, ends in a fleshy lure known as an esker, which resembles a variety of marine creatures depending on the species. The frogfish waves the elysium like a fishing rod to attract prey. The appearance of the esker is useful in distinguishing between species. If the elysium and esker are removed, the frogfish can grow a replacement. The elysium is not always deployed, and opportunistic frogfishes will snatch what food they can. They will often just lie in wait, their upturned mouths ready to devour unsuspecting bypassers. The giant frogfish often takes up a more elevated position like this tube sponge from which to ambush prey. This warty frogfish appears nervous as it finds itself in the path of a highly venomous flower urchin. The urchin finally chose another route. The striated frogfish is a real star amongst Lembeh critters and high on most divers' list of favourites. Many examples in the area bear long skin filaments and are known amongst the dive community as hairy frogfish. They are usually found on the open sand amongst algae. The esker resembles a polychaete worm. A black phase of the striated frogfish without significant skin appendages is sometimes seen. It's possible that the filaments may be seasonally shed. Lembeh is famous for the amazing ability of the resident dive guides to spot special subjects. One of them found this tiny but perfectly formed juvenile painted frogfish crawling across the sand. The pointer behind it is just 1/4 inch in diameter. It opened its mouth as a warning to a tiny nearby crab. The sheltered conditions make the strait a successful nursery, and juvenile fishes can be seen everywhere. This striking coloration belongs to a young spotted parrotfish. In later life, it will likely head out to more exposed reefs, where its fused teeth will enable it to excavate chunks of hard coral. It will also undergo a dramatic change in coloration, as demonstrated by this mature male from Fiji. The young feed on sediment lying on the reef. Nutrient-rich algae is digested, while the inert sand is excreted. Previously, all specimens bearing this pattern were thought to be of a species commonly known as the bicolour parrotfish, but those are now deemed to be local to the Red Sea. A starry goby takes this one by surprise. Sweetlips also change dramatically during their life cycle. This juvenile painted sweetlips bears bold stripes. As an adult, it loses the stripes and bears spots which will fade as it matures further. The juvenile harlequin sweetlips mimics toxic flatworms and sea slugs, and the movement is confusing for predators. As it matures, the movement slows down and the pattern starts to change. This adult individual from Thailand shows how it will end up. Juvenile yellow blotch razorfish, a type of wrasse, are here too. This fish will dive headfirst into the sand to sleep or if it is alarmed. The slim, bony head is optimized for this purpose. It prepares an area of sand in advance by loosening it to make it easier to dive into, and it is able to move significant distances under the sand before re-emerging. This white variation bears 2 false eye spots on its dorsal fin. Juvenile filefishes are a common sight too. Their retractable dorsal spine deters predators. The name filefish comes from the rough skin. It is said that dried filefish skin was once used like sandpaper to finish wooden boats. In Australia, they are known as leather jackets. This is a juvenile strapweed filefish. The adult is well camouflaged. This is a very young boxfish, possibly a longhorn cowfish. Along with toxic skin, the boxfish's main defence is a very hard carapace of bony plates. The juvenile's coloration helps it remain unnoticed while the body hardens. This is a juvenile thornback cowfish sheltering in Halimeda algae. Juvenile boxfishes often tuck their tail to one side when it is not needed for swimming. Likewise, juvenile puffers, such as this starry puffer, another fish that changes dramatically in adulthood. Although puffers are slow movers, the tail can give them a great turn of speed when threatened. As a further defence, puffers can inflate their bodies with water, vastly increasing their size and revealing short, sharp spines on their skin. They are believed to be the second most poisonous vertebrate on Earth, after the golden poison frog. However, some predators can tolerate the toxin, and some parts of them are carefully prepared as a delicacy in Japan, Korea and China. This juvenile guinea fowl puffer's coloration advertises its toxicity to potential predators. Black and yellow is a common combination of warning colours in the animal kingdom. More elongate puffers are around too. This is a narrow-lined puffer at hairball. And this is a short fin puffer at TK. Sharp-nosed puffers, also known as tobies, like this Valentini puffer, have elongated snouts and slimmer bodies. This one is a Bennett sharp-nosed puffer. And this one is known as a compressed toby. The birdbeak burrfish is covered in spines which are permanently erect, and it can inflate its body like puffers. Its eyes contain iridescent green specks. Conversely, the spines of this long-spined porcupine fish lie flat against its body when it is not inflated. It seems content to share this shelter with a small birdbeak burrfish. This burrfish is sharing its home amongst the trash with a reclusive young panther or humpback grouper. Perhaps the most distinctive of groupers, this species is vulnerable due to its natural rarity and its high value in the aquarium and live food trades. The white-margined stargazer spends most of its time buried in the substrate, with only its upper or dorsal surface exposed where its eyes and mouth are located. Like frogfishes, stargazers are ambush predators. They have a worm-like lure, not seen here, that extends from the upturned mouth to attract fish that pass overhead. Stargazers are also equipped with poisonous spines at the rear of the operculum, the gill cover. The papillae fringing the mouth help stop sand from falling in when the fish is buried. This leopard flounder has adapted to life on the bottom with a superb camouflage. Such left eye flounders are symmetrical and swim upright like other fishes when young. As they develop, the eye on the right side migrates to the left, thus enabling them to lie flat on the bottom. The eye stalks can be retracted for protection, but enhance their view when extended. Flatheads also have excellent camouflage and a stealthy low profile, but unlike flounders, they are dorsally compressed and remain symmetrical. They are also ambush predators and often hide by burying much of their body in the substrate. Flatheads are related to scorpion fishes and have short venomous spines on top of their head. This is a pair of spiny flatheads at Retak Larry, a classic dark sand muck diving site named after the late Lembeh pioneer Larry Smith. There are many species of scorpionfish in the area, and it is often impossible to accurately identify them from pictures alone due to the minor differences in their anatomy and the highly variable nature of their camouflage. All scorpionfishes possess venomous spines on the dorsal and anal fins for self-defense and for stunning their prey. They can also deliver a painful, sometimes even deadly sting to humans. The sting can be deactivated and the pain alleviated with prolonged immersion in hot water. Like so many cryptic Lembeh creatures, scorpionfishes are ambush predators, using camouflage to remain hidden, then pouncing on unsuspecting prey when it passes. One of the best camouflaged of all is the Ambon scorpionfish, named after the island to the southeast in the Maluku Islands. It has very long protrusions, particularly above its eyes. Due to its sedentary lifestyle, this individual has gathered a lot of algae on its body. Like many scorpion fishes, it will soon clean itself by shedding the outer layer of its skin, known as the cuticle. In the meantime, the algae helps it disappear into the surrounding territory. The scorpionfish of the Rhinopeus genus are fantastic and rare creatures, and considered by many to be the holy grail of muck diving finds. The Eschmeyer scorpionfish, sometimes known as a paddle flap scorpionfish, is occasionally found by lucky divers. This pink specimen was resident for a long time at Air Parang. 3 days after my initial sighting, the same individual had gathered a lot of algae on its body. Like the Ambon scorpionfish, Rhinopeus regularly shed their cuticle to rid themselves of such algae and other unwanted organisms. The weedy scorpionfish, Rhinopeus frondosa, typically bears a spotted coloration and more skin filaments than the Eschmeyer scorpionfish. This one was also at Air Parang, where bright yellow variants have previously been seen. Both Eschmeyers and weedy scorpionfishes are often seen in the same locality, leading some to speculate that they are in fact morphological variations of the same species. Like the nearby Eschmeyer scorpionfish, this one also gathered algae on its body during our 3-day absence. Lionfishes are close relatives of scorpionfishes. Rather than camouflage, they bear a bold warning pattern to advertise their toxicity and confuse predators. Like scorpion fishes, they have venomous spines along their dorsal fin, but the venom glands are smaller, so their sting is generally less potent. Human fatalities are very rare. This dwarf lionfish, also known as a short-fin turkey fish, splays its dorsal rays to maximize its defenses. It feeds mainly on crabs at night. In this pair, the male at the rear can be identified by its larger head and longer pectoral fins, with more bands than those of its female partner. Red lionfish are sometimes seen too. This is a young red lionfish sheltering next to an oil drum at Air Perang. They have tentacles above the eyes, and some exhibit globular fleshy growths beneath these tentacles. Here we find a mature adult at Jahir. Although indigenous only to the Indo-Pacific, red lionfish have been introduced to the east coast of the United States and spread all the way from North Carolina down to the Caribbean. With few natural predators and a voracious appetite for smaller reef fishes, the population has expanded exponentially, wiping out many native species and greatly upsetting the balance of reef ecosystems. In a battle to control the invasion, divers are encouraged to catch lionfishes. Lionfish derbies are held, with prizes for the highest number of catches, and even lionfish cookbooks have been produced. Scientists are trying to understand why the native Indo-Pacific population is not out of control, in an effort to find solutions to the West Atlantic invasion. One fish that divers should be wary of in the Lembeh Strait is the demon stinger, as its sting is extremely painful and can be deadly to humans. They have excellent camouflage and often lie partially buried in the muck. These fish are more closely related to the lethal stonefish than to scorpion fishes, and are known by a multitude of other evocative common names, including spiny devilfish, bearded ghoul, and sea goblin. The lower two rays of the pectoral fins are detached from the fin, and the demon stinger walks on them in a manner similar to some dragonets. Demon stingers have no known predators. Many fellow bottom dwellers are oblivious to their existence. This fireworm, a type of bristle worm, crawls right over the top of a well-camouflaged demon stinger. Another type of polychaete worm wriggles past this wispy waspfish. Like their scorpionfish relatives, wasp fishes are also armed with venomous spines in their dorsal fin. The wispy waspfish's coloration is variable. Band-tail waspfishes are sometimes found too. The white-face waspfish is one of the more common types. With its spines erect, like its namesake's crest, The cockatoo waspfish sways from side to side, mimicking a dead leaf in surge. They are sometimes found in pairs on the open seabed. The broadclub cuttlefish is the second largest species of cuttlefish and the most common on coral reefs. It can adopt an infinite number of textures, colours and poses to camouflage itself, communicate and to hypnotise prey. As the name suggests, the crinoid cuttlefish tends to hang around feather stars, but this one is hiding amongst the branches of a decaying staghorn coral. This is an undescribed species known only from Indonesia. It can be recognised by the dark spots at the front of its lower arms. The dwarf or stumpy-spined cuttlefish is a tiny species that is usually only seen at night. Rather than swimming, it usually uses its lower arms to walk on and explore the seabed. It is often found in association with echinoderms, such as this sea urchin. Another species that walks on its arms is one of the real stars of Lembeh, the flamboyant cuttlefish. When disturbed, it abandons its camouflage, and the skin adopts spectacular shades of purple and yellow, with waves of white radiating down the mantle. The colour changes are achieved by adjusting millions of pigmented cells in the skin called chromatophores. This is an example of aposematic coloration, whereby a creature warns potential predators of its toxicity. Scientists have recently discovered that the flamboyant cuttlefish's muscle tissue contains a unique and highly potent toxin, proving that this display is no bluff. Cuttlefish's intelligence and unique powers compensate for their lack of a protective shell. They have the highest brain-to-body mass ratio of all invertebrates, and researchers have shown them to possess a good memory and a high capacity for learning. Like other cuttlefishes, they possess special feeding tentacles, which they use for snatching prey such as small shrimps or gobies. This tiny juvenile raises its median tentacles, a common threat display amongst cuttlefishes. Octopuses are closely related to cuttlefishes and have similar characteristics and intelligence. Here at TK, this undescribed octopus has captured a crab and retreats to its burrow to enjoy the meal. This octopus is a near relative of the mimic octopus and wonderpus. It usually injects the crab with a paralysing saliva before using its parrot-like beak at the centre of its arms to excavate the meat from the crab. As the name suggests, the starry night octopus is a nocturnal species. This starry night octopus led me a dance across the reef, twisting, turning and contorting itself, as it tried to escape my attention. This flame scallop is a type of bivalve. It appears to emit luminescent electrical pulses, but actually it is rolling and unrolling the edges of its mantle, revealing special particles that simply reflect light. The display is thought to attract phytoplankton as food, and perhaps frighten off predators like crabs and shrimps. The grey bonnet is a typical sea snail, a type of gastropod. It has a protective coiled shell that it can withdraw its entire body into. It glides over the substrate on its large muscular foot, and at the rear we see the operculum, a hard lid that is used to close the opening of the shell after the snail withdraws into it. Two simple eyes peer out from under the front of the shell, and important sensory feedback also comes from the two tentacles. To one side is the inhalant siphon, a tube that the sea snail uses to draw in water for respiration. The anatomy of the bubble conch is different. Its mouth is much more obvious at the end of a long protrusion called a proboscis. It is strictly a herbivore, and it uses the proboscis for locating and eating algae growing in the sand. Its eyes are much more prominent too, at the end of long stalks, and jutting out from these stalks are two highly sensitive tentacles. Rather than gliding, it uses its operculum to drag itself along the bottom in a lurching motion. Conchs are a popular food, and their shells have symbolic and religious significance in some cultures. They have been used for everything from musical instruments to weapons to ink holders. It's not just humans that recycle conch shells. Here is that white-spotted hermit crab we met earlier. The original inhabitant of its home was a strawberry conch. The main sensory organ of cone snails is the siphon itself, which contains highly sensitive chemoreceptors. If it detects suitable prey, the cone will unleash a harpoon from its proboscis containing a highly venomous neurotoxin, powerful enough to kill humans. A huge and fascinating diversity of sea slugs, or opistobranchs, are found in the Lembeh Strait. Opistobranch means gills behind, because their gills are located behind their heart. Most have all but lost their protective shell, but compensate with more advanced weapons of defense. Over 6,000 different species of sea slug are nudibranchs. The name means naked gills, referring to the rosette of branchial plumes on their back surrounding their anus. These gills vary greatly in form, but all have a large surface area for oxygen exchange. The black-margined Dory prismatica sometimes actively wiggles its gills, perhaps to increase water flow across them, as does this closely related Glossodoris slug. Nudibranch's primitive eyes can do little but detect light and shade, but the rhinophores on their head are sensitive to smell and taste, as well as touch, helping them navigate, find food, and locate mates. The fine structure gives a high surface area for maximum chemical detection. The pairing of rhinophores gives sea slugs some spatial awareness. They can detect the direction that smells are coming from by comparing the intensity on each rhinophore. Most nudibranchs encountered in the Lembeh Strait are cryptobranchs, which means hidden gills. This is because they are able to retract their gills to protect them. Most species, such as this funeral Geronna slug, are also able to retract their rhinophores when under threat. This bowhole Discodoris nudibranch mimics a toxic polyclad flatworm, but it can also shed sections of its mantle if disturbed, a phenomenon known as autotomy. Most nudibranchs are toxic or distasteful, and many bear a dazzling array of flamboyant colours and patterns, one reason why they are so popular with divers. Some are even fluorescent. This is another example of aposematic coloration, a warning to potential predators of their toxicity. Many nudibranchs of the Chromadoris genus bear similar black longitudinal lines. Some suggest that their coloration has converged in an evolutionary phenomenon known as Mullerian mimicry. Predators that learn their lesson to not eat one species are likely to avoid all similarly patterned slugs. Alternatively, they may have simply diversified from a common ancestor. The truth may be a mixture of the two. The Ceratosoma genus, with its distinctive lobed body, is well represented in the strait. The raised horn behind the gills contains noxious chemicals from the sponges it feeds on. It is a sacrificial defensive lure, inviting predators to feed on it first, while the more important and less toxic part of the slug is preserved. Under attack, the gills would be withdrawn for protection. Often these toxic appendages do appear to be small and in the process of regeneration, suggesting previous attacks. Lone Bangai cardinal fish sometimes appear to form a symbiotic relationship with these nudibranchs. Perhaps they benefit from the shelter of a notoriously toxic companion. This slug has completely withdrawn its head and rhinophores, revealing its mouth. The gills of felidae nudibranchs are along their sides, hidden under the mantle rather than on their backs. When disturbed, they secrete a highly pungent poison from the tubercles on their body. This ocellate Felidia bears false eye spots to give the illusion of a larger animal. The cardinal Philidiopsis differs greatly in colour and form from other Felideids. Its camouflage and reluctance to venture into the open during daylight suggests it might not be so toxic. Aeolid nudibranchs have serrata along their backs rather than a plume of gills. They feed on stinging animals such as hydroids. They are immune to the hydroid-stinging nematocysts, which are transported to the tips of the serrata, where they act as a defence. This nudibranch, commonly known as a blue dragon nudibranch, stores and cultivates zooxanthellae from one of its food sources. This is the same type of single-celled alga, a plant that lives symbiotically within reef-building corals. Inside the slug's body, the zooxanthellae continue to photosynthesize the sun's energy into sugars and other nutrients that the slug then metabolizes. In effect, the slug is solar powered and can survive for lengthy periods on this fuel without feeding. The plants benefit from the arrangement too, as they are protected and can flourish inside the nudibranch's body. The serrata have evolved to give maximum exposure to sunlight. Patches of brown show where clusters of zooxanthellae are stored, and the white areas show where it is lacking. This nudibranch of the Philodesmium genus has a magnificent shrimp for company. These slugs are also solar powered. They obtain their symbiotic zooxanthellae from their prey of xeneous soft corals. Although they can secrete repellent substances from their serrata, they don't store stinging nematocysts like most other aeolids. They compensate for this with camouflage by mimicking the soft corals that they feed on. They also readily shed their serrata if disturbed. Most sea slugs have a ribbon-like tongue covered in microscopic teeth called a radula to help them consume their prey. The form of the radula varies greatly and is important as a basis for taxonomic classification. All known nudibranchs are carnivores. The biggest family of nudibranchs, the chromodoridids, feed exclusively on sponges, which are often concealed beneath sand or silt. Most sea slugs are quite specific in their choice of food, and so they are often drawn towards the same place. This is also a good reason not to keep them in aquariums. This is a pleurobranch, a different type of sea slug, feeding on an ascidian or sea squirt, a type of tunicate. This slug's gill is on the right side of its body between its mantle and foot. Nembrotha nudibranchs also feed on ascidians. This lined Nembrotha is tackling a blue club tunicate. The ascidian feeds by filtering plankton from the water with its delicate blue sieve-like interior, enclosed in a clear outer sac, its tunic. The sea slug everts its proboscis, its oral tube, out of its mouth, and with ruthless efficiency sucks this fleshy interior right through the tunic. The radula teeth enable the slug to deal with the tougher parts of the sea squirt's intestines. In a little over a minute, the meal is finished and the slug moves on. This Nembrotha of a very similar species makes its way through a colony of social ascidians and past a tiny relative. A liking for the same foodstuff increases the chances of encountering others of the same species, and moments later this nudibranch had found itself a mate. As they have no vision, nudibranchs locate each other initially through smell, then touch. During copulation, they line up their genitals, which are on the right side of their body. All sea slugs are hermaphrodites and contain both male and female reproductive systems. During mating, each nudibranch receives sperm from the other. In many nudibranchs, the genitals are flush with the body or raised on a slight swelling. In this Nembrotha, they are at the end of a stalk which can be extended a long way to reach the partner. The penis, which is off to the side, is covered in tiny sharp barbs which lock it into the vagina, which is at the centre of the stalk. The male organs often mature before the female ones. Small nudibranchs with an immature female reproductive system can store the sperm they receive until they start producing fertile eggs. This is a mating pair of hypselodorid nudibranchs. Their genitals are also covered in tiny spines that anchor them together during copulation. After fertilization, a mucus-bound ribbon of eggs is laid in a spiral, often on or near the species' food source. Most egg masses are toxic to predators and are abandoned by the parent. Hypselodorid nudibranchs often follow each other around, top to tail. The reason for this trailing or tailgating behaviour is a mystery. It's thought to be a prelude to mating, but in some cases the trailing slug might simply be getting an easy ride in the search for food. This sap-sucking slug is not a nudibranch. It does not have gills as such, but breathes through two leafy flaps called parapodia that run most of the length of its body. The rhinophores on its head have a semi-tubular form. It feeds by sucking the fluid from green algae, and the chloroplasts it contains give the body a bright green colour, which fades if the slug goes short of food. Behind the rhinophores, it has tiny photoreceptors for eyes. The white spots are raised glands that can secrete a repellent white substance. Headshield slugs lack tentacles, and most retain a small, thin internal shell. They also have parapodia, which are wrapped up and around the body. Many secrete mucus to help them burrow into the substrate, and the head shield prevents sand entering the mantle cavity. This gardener's head shield slug feeds on polychaete worms. And this pleasant head shield slug feeds exclusively on acyl flatworms that infest hard corals and sponges. Small dark eye spots on the front of its head give it very primitive vision. Like the striated frogfish, the ragged sea hare is camouflaged with long papillae that help it disappear on a seabed strewn with algae. Sea hares get their name from the overall body shape and the long pair of rhinophores on the head, which are tubular and give it an acute sense of smell. It also has a second pair of tentacles at the sides of the mouth, and it gobbles up the thin layer of cyanobacteria that coats the seabed. Below the rhinophores, it has a pair of tiny eyes. If it is disturbed, it can release a noxious mixture of white opaline and purple ink. Recent research has shown that this sticks to the antennae of predators such as lobsters and dulls their senses. The bright blue eye spots covering the body are more vivid here than in populations in other parts of the world. Ragged sea hares and these similar but smaller long-tailed sea hares sometimes form huge swarming aggregations comprising hundreds or even thousands of individuals of varying size. They tumble over each other, devouring cyanobacteria and defecating as they stampede across the sea floor. In an aggregation, they are an easy target for predators. Pufferfishes and predatory sea slugs have been seen to pick them off one by one. They breed quickly and have even been sold into the aquarium trade as sea bunnies for eating unwanted algae and providing food for other tank inhabitants with their larvae. It is said that inhabitants of some of the Cook Islands and Austral Islands collect and eat swarms of these sea hares, discarding the toxic internal organs. It is a mystery why sea hares aggregate like this. They have been observed to all mate, spawn and die at the same time. Although it resembles a sea slug, this is a polyclad flatworm. Its ruffle periphery forms a pair of pseudo-tentacles reminiscent of nudibranch's rhinophores. Occasionally flatworms leave the seabed to swim, and when they do, they are a spectacular sight. The Lembeh Strait is truly a remarkable place, an evolutionary hotbed where many of the secrets are yet to be discovered. Veterans of thousands of dives here continue to be surprised by new creatures and fascinating behaviours in the muck. No film could ever comprehensively document this underwater cornucopia of life. Personally, I can't wait to get back and see what lies in store.